Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Jentry Chau versus the Underworld, Season 1, Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up where the last episode left off, where Flora is taking Jentry to, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, is it Zhong? Essentially, it seems like the equivalency of purgatory, because I brought it up because Diu, it's not necessarily hell, it's just the underworld. But I had wondered if, like, because in Japanese, I think maybe it's part of Shinto Buddhism, maybe it's just Japanese mythology in general, but I brought up the equivalency of like Yami and Tengoku. I know Tengoku means heaven, but I don't know if Tengoku is like legitimately like heaven in like Japanese mythology or whatever. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if they just mean those words. I don't know if those are necessarily the equivalency of like, oh, Yami is actual hell, whereas Tengoku is actually heaven. So I wondered if, like, like I said, Diu is kind of like the underworld, so I thought was supposed to be the equivalency of hell, but I guess it kind of isn't. But anyway, the world they're in right now is, like I said, a purgatory, is an in-between space, and Flora explains that basically when you die, you basically have two choices. You can kind of move on to the afterlife, and she specifically says, like, I guess there's like, you just stay in the afterlife is one route. There's the going through the DU, like once you've kind of going through everything, all these trials, after a century or whatever, you're able to be reborn with all the knowledge of what you went through the DU to kind of carry over into your next life. Or you can stay a ghost. So, but it's like the moment you stay a ghost, which, hey, it's like, hey, I'd rather stay a ghost. But the problem is normal humans can't see you. So even if you're around your loved ones, they'll never know you're there with them. And also you get to be stuck. Sadly, you're stuck while they eventually pass on and move on. So you're just left with a lot of regrets of like, yeah, you got to be around the people you care about, but you sadly have to stay behind. And that's kind of like becomes your eternity, because at least the way Flora kind of like explained that kind of makes it seem like once you've chosen your path, there is no like, oh, I'm going to do the other. So for example, if you're stuck as a ghost, there's no ever going through the process of being reborn, because she's like, ghosts don't get that option. Once you've chosen to stay on Earth as a ghost, there is no like changing that afterwards. Maybe special circumstances and situations could lead to you, maybe that's something we'll see later on, but it's like, meaning like, because Flora decided to be a ghost to stay here for Jentry, to prepare her for everything that's coming, she can never like have an afterlife or even be reborn again. So also, the place she's in right now, she's not supposed to be there, because it's not a place for the living, only the dead. So the things she got from Solar, the black mystic item dealer they dealt with last episode, the thing she got from her makes it so that Jentry basically appears to be a ghost, that no one will be the wiser. But basically, once the liquid inside of it basically runs out, which I'm wondering if her using her powers, maybe it just naturally burns out the more. I mean, I'm sure it does, but I was curious because of her using her powers. I wondered, did her powers burn through essentially the oil or the liquid in it so much faster? They never brought that up, but I wondered if that was the case. Like, did she burn through more of her time? It's a anime reference to use, but like when Goku during the Buu saga, I believe, when he went, like, he's only supposed to be on Earth for like 24 hours or something like that. I can't remember the timeline. It's been so long since I've seen DBZ, but basically the more of his power he exerted, the more of his time that he burned away. And specifically that happened like the moment he went Super Saiyan 3, he ate through so much more of his time. There's also like what was it called? Chrono Crusade. There's an anime / manga. I've only watched the anime that kind of has a similar like time limit thing. I'm going on a whole tangent, but my point was I was just trying to make a parallel of like, I guess it kind of, I was wondering if it worked like that, where it's just like I said, the more she used her powers, the more she burned through like the substance that's inside the thing that makes her appear to be a ghost. But she meets the guy she met like 2 episodes ago, was it? The Alamo situation. And it's the guy who no, because that wasn't last. That was that was episode 4, the Alamo episode. Yeah. Which I also love that she runs into some of the ghosts. Like they didn't see her, but like, we see them in the background talking. But the guy who showed up, I'm going to butcher his name too. Is it like Zhong Kui? Like I guess he's kind of like he's essentially the warden to the was it like God? It's like Bixi. I don't know if it's like Bishi. Uh, but essentially, it's a ghost prison, and if you try to escape, your punishment is basically you get kind of petrified outside. The substance cover these tentacles grab you, and they basically basically Medusa you and kind of turn you to stone. And I don't know if that's permanent or is that kind of a thing of it's almost like solitary confinement of like, oh, because you did that, you're going to be stuck like that for a year. And then eventually, if you're, we'll put you back in Gen Pop. I don't know if that's how that works. I'm also curious, like, how does time work in, like, whether it's the Zhong or whether it's the DU, like, does time work differently? So, like, say, for example, like, using DBZ, for example, again, I wonder is it like a hyperbolic time chamber thing where, like, a day out, like, a minute out in, like, the human world, is different inside like the DU or like the more spiritual worlds. I'm curious. Didn't cover this episode, but I'm just curious. But I still kept thinking the entire time. I'm like, I think there's some BS going on here. Just like I kept saying that last episode. I'm like, now you want to be honest with Jentry. Plus, I went back to I talked about it. Like, was it episode? Might have been episode 2 or 3. When she was like after the whole Pearl situation and she was like, yo, I need to do something and it needs to be perfect, then I was like, you're got to be faking something. Like her willingness now and promising she's going to tell her the truth, I'm like, I don't believe it. And so when she meets her parents, I was like, there's got to be something to this, right? But they started seeming like they really were her parents until Jentry hears from them like what happened. It's like, right, Chang ended up killing us because steal this specific robe from Gugu and we wrapped you in it and all that power went into you, and Chang, because we wouldn't give you over, ended up killing us. We were black market dealers and we just wanted to get out of this life to give you a normal life, which that's always the thing about lies. There's always going to be some grain of truth because that's what makes a lie good. It's like it's less stuff you have to make up when you're able to kind of spin it from the truth. The less you have to fabricate, the better the lie is, right? So I think there is a lot of truth to that, but there's a lot like muddled in that we don't know. Well, we find out more at the end of the episode. But the moment Jentry was like, I don't blame you guys, this is Chang, and she starts summoning her power, and look on Gugu's face, I'm like, is exactly what she wanted. I was like, I brought it up earlier in this season. I was like, I feel like Gugu's the type of person, I hope she isn't. I was like, but I feel like she's the type of person who's willing to do whatever it takes because she thinks, I have to do some shady stuff, but for the greater good. I might have to manipulate Jentry, but it's for the greater good. And she kind of made that clear. And that whole back and forth between her and Chang, like, a couple episodes back about that very thing. So Gugu was saying that the reason why Gentry's parents are specifically in this prison is because they tried to possess human bodies and just live the rest of their lives like that. But it's like, that's not how that works. It's kind of a big no-no for ghosts to do that. Which I brought that up because I think I'd thrown out the Dead Boy Detectives as a parallel of like, oh yeah, that's definitely how you draw people's attention doing something like that, possessing bodies, because it's, like I said, big no-no. But yeah, it's just like, and then like her need to, well, it's like, right, we're running out of like stuff in that pot, so we need to leave. And so, but then they run into that ghost that mentions Mooney's name. And I was like, is that someone related to you? Because even Gugu's like, why are you here? And her face is kind of messed up. So you're like, what does that mean necessarily? But it's like, and Gugu's like, right, we got to get out of here, and immediately leaves. But obviously she got what she wanted in the end, because now Jentry, she's like, oh, I'm ready to close the portal now. I'm determined and ready for this fight against Chang like you wanted me to be. Once again, Gugu got what she wanted, and she probably thinks like, well, as long as you never learn the truth, it's going to be fine. Or either she's thinking, well, you'll find out the truth maybe years from now and they'll be okay. It'll be so far behind us, you'll recognize I did what was best for you type of situation. But it's like, I get the feeling Gugu probably never wanted her to fully know the truth. So it's like, I'm going to tell you half truths just to kind of motivate you. And it's just like, once again, Gugu doesn't see like how effed up that is, because she's like, right, this is for the greater good. It's like, right, I'm especially not around anymore, so I need you to make, well, I'm a ghost, but like, right, you need someone fully there for you, so you need to be able to defend yourself. So all the while this is happening, Ed is tossing things back through the portal until like a fox comes out. Obviously, immediately think of like the nine-tailed fox. I don't know if this one necessarily had 9 tails. It had quite a few tails, but I didn't bother counting. He's dealing with that, but he gets back up from Kit, who just wants to try and make things right with Gentry. I'm surprised. I thought he was just going to like straight up completely avoid it, because it's only been like the next day. So, but yeah, he's just like still trying to reach out, and he ends up helping Ed. He's like, yo, we got to toss this thing back into the portal. And at the same time, Wheeler is there trying to gather evidence to prove Gentry being as evil as he thinks she is. It did seem like he did drop his phone when he was all recording all that stuff. So nothing, like, unless he comes back to get that phone, there's nothing solidified he could use. Not unless he sent some of that to his, like, he's like sent those files to himself and he can pull them up, like, once he's back home or whatever. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it doesn't matter what Gentry's doing, because I'm sure it's going to be the thing of, you're responsible. The only reason why all this crazy stuff is happening here is because of you. And it's like, well, a lot of this crazy stuff was already happening in the world. It's become a lot more apparent to you because of Gentry. So, but yeah, this was always going on. It just happens to sadly be Gentry's kind of at the centerfold of what's happening in this town now. So, but Gentry easily defeats the fox and like tosses it back in the portal, and she immediately tries to do the same thing to Kit, but he wants to talk to her. But for her, it's like, it's not even about whether you work with Chang or not. It's that you lied and manipulated me. You made me fall in love with you. And you immediately see Gugu's face when that conversation comes up, because it's like, yeah, you're going to be on the receiving end of that, basically, or by the end of the episode. But it's like, yeah, like, it's how low she thought she could get away with it, who knows, But yeah, she tried to throw Kit in there, and only thing that went in was his human skin, which is really sad, because there's no pretending to be a human now. Like, he's stuck in his true form forever now. I think I'd assume he only has one skin suit. I don't think, like, it's probably like a lot that goes into having one of those. So it's not like a thing he could easily like replace. Probably the only reason why he has that is because of Chang. So it's like without him. So that might be like, once again, he wants to be with Gentry. He wants to make things right. But I'm sure this is just going to push him, sadly. I mean, I already thought he was going to be pushed further to Chang. But every time I turn around, it's like, no, he hasn't quite gone there yet. It's an eventuality, sadly. But because of this situation, he might be forced to go to Chang. Because it's like, I can't go out. I have to just be, he wants to be human more so than anything. He wants to have a soul. And it's like, any attempts to like have that now, you can't go out in public, and especially in this form, because if he could talk to Gentry, it would be as human Kit. Talking to her as the demon I really am, not super copacetic, so he's in a very rough spot. But yeah, Gentry goes through her training, and she does seem like she's ready, but the moment Gugu leaves, her and Ed go back to try and talk to her parents, because she wants to try and break them out, which is like, that's a big no-no. But it's like, it's the youth, and it's like, I have this power, I know the truth, my parents shouldn't have to be punished. But the moment she gets back there, she finds out the truth. They weren't her parents. They were in fact facsimiles. They were shapeshifters hired by Gugu. And now it's like, that's what pisses off more. It's like, just when she was starting to believe Gugu, she even said like, hey, I get it, you didn't want me to be mad at my parents, you want me to have a you didn't want me to hate them. And now it's like, right, you needed to show me the truth so that I could be prepared for this fight against Chang. I mean, and I think this might be a sad thing too, like, if you saw, like, I mean, how much it took out of her to close the portal, I don't think Gugu really knows how much of a toll those powers might be taking on her. Because Once again, they're not powers a human are supposed to have. It's not like she was born with the power. She acquired them when she was a kid, when she was an infant, but that doesn't mean like it's something she can, especially if she pushes herself like that. Who knows what that's doing to her? For like all you know, that could be burning away pieces of her soul the more and more she uses it. I mean, but she also discovered a new ability. She's able to create chains from it, but it's something Gugu had said early on in the season that the fire is just one of many abilities. You don't fully know what you're capable of yet. But yeah, she found out about what Gugu did, and she gets visited by what appears to be her aunt. I don't know if that's her mom's brother or her dad's brother. I don't know if that's her dad's sister or her mom's sister, but her name is Iris, and she has like pearls. It's like the shin pearls again, and it's like these are your mom's memories. So it's like interesting because Gentry tried to say like, I know you're the one that put those pearls on me, and you're like, interesting. I mean, even though like Kit never admitted to it, but it's like if because the reason why Iris has them because she's like a Mogwai told me to keep them, and it's like why wouldn't Chang tell my aunt to keep my mom's memories? But it's like, I guess that's why, because once again, it's like Chang wanted Gentry to have those visions and stuff, those memories. So I guess Kit did slip it on her. He seems like the most logical choice. Like, who else would it have been if it wasn't Kit? He never denied it, but he also never admitted it too. But it's like, now knowing like that's where that came from, those were pieces of your mom's memories. There was a whole bunch of them, and you only got one of them. And now her aunt gave her the entire necklace. But the moment Gentry was found out to be, oh, you're alive, her aunt like sacrificed herself and got petrified, making sure her and Ed were able to escape. But I'm like, I don't know if there's going to be ramifications for the fact is that you just came in there and did that. But Gentry takes the necklace, puts it on, and finds out the truth. Gugu, and there was stuff that was kind of implied throughout, kind of made you feel like Gugu's the reason why Gentry has those powers, that Gugu did it, and she did. She was being spiteful because they took the robe and they were going to leave, and it's like, right, it's that thing of, once again, that greater good thing of do some bad, because it's like, I can't let those powers fall into Chang's hands, so I basically use Gentry as a bargaining chip by saying like, hey, here's these powers. If I put them inside of Gentry, now you can't give them to Chang. So, because at first I was wondering, there's no way Gugu has something to do with her parents' death, and it's like, well, maybe she kind of played the domino effect of, because she did that, and they didn't have the robe anymore, and all that power went in Gentry, now like her parents ended up getting killed. But we also know Gugu's the one that made the deal with Chang, where it's like, you can have Gentry when she's 16, because she wanted her to be prepared so that the time came she could kill Chau and everything, right? I mean, Chang and everything. But I'm like, do you think part of that bargaining chip were her parents? Like, what happened? Like, did they just legitimately die? Are they ghosts somewhere else? Or did they decide to go through the DU and they're trying to go through the whole thing of being reborn? Did they decide not to stick around as ghosts? Or are they still alive but in prison somewhere? There's so many questions that we don't know, but Gentry does now know, like, right, Gugu has lied to me again. And this is the worst of all, because not only did she lie to me about my parents and stuff like that, which is bad enough, because it's like, oh, my parents knew about the supernatural stuff, you lied to me, said they had nothing to do with all of this, but now I find out they had everything to do with this, and so did you. You're also the reason why I have these powers that's prevented me from having a normal life. It's just like, you've lied to me every step of the way. And she probably will try and justify, like, I had my reasons. This is for the greater good. We can't let Chang get access to the Yellow Emperor's powers. But still, you did that to your great niece. And it's like, it's all kinds of effed up. And once again, you've been gaslighting her the entire time. And you know you've been in the wrong. That's why you've been so scared about Gentry finding out the truth. Because what Chang said a couple episodes ago struck a chord with you. You seeing how pissed off she was and hearing how she was feeling about the whole Kit thing, because she was falling in love with him. Now here's someone she loves, whose family, the only family she has left, betraying her like that, potentially betraying her family. Once again, we don't even know what the iris of it all is, like how that ended up happening. So there is a lot here. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where all this takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.